Good evening. Welcome to the one, the only Hog Talk podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios. We're part of the Even Buzz Radio Networks and 106.7 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I'm your host, Porter Hayes, and alongside me, as always, is Adam Hall. And we are also brought to you by Bet Online. Get the latest odds, lines, matchup for NBA, NFL, baseball, golf, and more. Bet Online continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting on your favorite casino card games available to play right from your phone. Head over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use the promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus. Bet online where the game starts. And joining us via the Metters Lumber Hotline is the crew from Next Up Sports. Guys, first of all, appreciate you coming on tonight. Been following y'all ever since y'all started, really kind of blowing up. Adam, I've seen you do some Arkansas content, and then you go into the high school ranks. So first of all, thank you for coming on and just talk about, what got y'all started and really when y'all realized that y'all are going to start blowing up.
So I'll take this one. My name is Marcus, by the way. I'm the CEO. So Mario and I bought Next Up about 13 months ago. A guy named David Swisher got it started. He did a really good job of laying the foundation for this platform, and we kind of took it and run with it. And Alex joined us, and he's helped us bring on several talented photographers and videographers, content creators. And this summer, we started going out to these AAU tournaments, and these guys really blew up and started getting all kinds of content out there, and the kids started following us, and we just kind of went from there.
Yeah, and I apologize. I've seen Adam down below. Alex, Adam. Y'all
All good.
I got the names mixed up on that. But, yes, that's what really got me led onto y'all's page when I started looking and what you're doing for the high school ranks. I know, Alex, you've done some photography for the U of A and really blown up with that. But I really want to start off with just how social media has been such a big key in getting kids notarized, getting kids scholarships. For y'all to be able to do this, one, in Arkansas, and you're not only covering the North Little Rocks or the Park Views, you're covering the smaller schools. How do you think that's had an effect on your growth? Because you're kind of separating yourself when your content of you're covering a lot of different schools and a lot of different classifications.
Go ahead, Alex.
Well, I think covering the smaller schools actually helps us more than covering, the North Little Rocks and the Park Views. And that, comes with us having a really big team. We have a team of about 20 different creatives, content creators, if you will. And, all the big cameras and all the big, media outlets are going to be at the North Little Rocks and the Park Views. And so, we're going to have somebody there too, but it's more beneficial for us to be a little bit more spread out and cover the smaller games and cover the games that maybe the cameras aren't at. And then, people are going to remember that, hey, Next Up was at, the Monticello game, or Next Up was at the Magnolia game, or they covered us during AAU. And so that's just, it just kind of spreads like wildfire in the state of Arkansas, because there's not a lot of people doing what we're doing and at a rate of what we're doing at to be honest. So I think, covering the smaller schools is definitely what's helped us the most.
When you go into some of the newer areas that you might not have covered, I mean, obviously the kids are on social media, all day, all night. They're seeing the hype videos. They're seeing the coverage. Do you get any kind of questions or the unknown from the parents or any of the coaches that may not really dabble much?
The biggest thing is what song what song that they want to choose, and make sure that the lyrics are clean. That's the biggest thing that the parents are on. Some parents don't care as much. Other parents are really like, hey, we want to make sure that the lyrics are clean. And Next Up Sports also tries to do a good job of making sure that our lyrics are clean, just because that's what coaches want to see. A lot of times, I mean, if you're a coach and you're watching a basketball video, or you're watching some kid that's, you're scouting and they have a bunch of cuss words in the video, it's just not a good look.
Yeah, and you see that in a lot of the social media stuff is, they have the highlight makers, and they just kind of put whatever song, and the kids even themselves, they're doing their own stuff. So
Absolutely.
all coming in and doing it and going. And when was the, okay, this is real moment? When was it when, you took it over? This would be for you, Marcus, of, all right, we got a good platform, but then when did it really hit you? Like, hey, we're starting to catch on. People are starting to know who we are.
It really probably hit us this summer when we started seeing some of the following and everything. And kind of to go back to the last question, your parents and stuff that don't typically have the social medias and everything starting to come up to us and to talk about things and ask us questions, ask us about things that we're doing, and to tell us thank you, because I preach to our guys all the time about being role models. When you're out there, you never know who's watching. I tell my kids at my house that when they're playing in their games and everything, to be role models, that somebody they would look up to or whatever. And we've had parents come up to us and tell us that like the kids want cameras in their hands now after they see our guys out there doing it and enjoying what they see them do. And then, I mean, that kind of just told me that, hey, this is something special.
And before Adam jumps in and asks the next question, I've got two boys that are in 8th grade and got a senior. I have told them, if you ever decide that you want to go to the next level in any kind of sport or just play high school, what you put on social media is being watched. And I think
yes,
the thing that these kids don't realize that, yeah, you might say, well, I was in 8th grade, I was in 9th grade. We're seeing pro athletes getting stuff pulled from 10, 15 years ago. So what's been the biggest challenge when you are talking to these kids and you are trying to help them get noticed of, hey, kind of got to watch what you put out on your own content as well as what you're doing, because one, you're highlighting these kids, and it'd be kind of hard to get a clip of a kid if they're doing something obscene gestures, or like you said, doing something to an opposing teammate. We see all that. How is that all wrapped into one?
That's something that I think our content creators are really good about is, I mean, we make it known to parents and coaches, like we want to help expose kids for the athletes, the great athletes they are and the people they are on and off the court. So we do, I think our digital creators, our content creators, do a really great job of getting them at doing their things on and off the court and being positive role models.
I think being a positive role model is the best thing that we can do as creatives, just because we have had, a lot of kids, seniors that aren't going to be playing college basketball, or even, kids that just want something to do whenever their team isn't playing. We've had a bunch of athletes, ask us, how do we get into the photography game? How do we, learn the camera skills? How can we get more involved in sports? And man, that's always the best message to get. It really is. So I would have to piggyback off of what Mario said. It's just being a good example.
Do you have a different,
Sorry.
do you have a different approach, say, to going towards, a high school versus one of the travel teams, AAU type teams? Is there a different approach to the coaches and the players?
I'd say the biggest difference is just the pace. The AAU is a lot faster pace. I wouldn't say that there's anything like personally different. We're not communicating any differently. If I guess maybe I'm not understanding what are you asking?
Well, so if you were to, I mean, the AAU, the travel teams, they have more, I guess, of these content following. There's usually more cameras. There's more people covering them. So going into a high school, is the approach somewhat different for these players, and these coaches may not know what they're getting into.
Absolutely.
I'll take that one. So like there's a difference, like a AAA regulated thing. Obviously you're not capturing that because we can't be like a recruiting service for the high school kids. When you get to AAU ball, then we can capture things more so than high school ball at that time. Like during regular season, we're looking to capture stuff just for highlights to get them noticed and things of that nature. In AAU ball, we can capture those things that help them put together film for college coaches or whatever if they reach out.
Do you feel like that kind of hinders you a little bit, that you go into a high school setting or any kind of AAA where you got to kind of watch, excuse me, you got to kind of watch what you're doing as content wise, because you don't want to step over that boundary of a huddle or anything like that?
Most definitely, yeah. I just, our main thing is to be able to cover the kids. Like Alex talked about earlier, you've got your kids, your 5 stars, your 4 stars, and stuff like that. We want to be able to cover the kid that comes off the bench that doesn't get a whole lot of playing time with a minute to go in the game and scores 8 or 9 points because both teams are getting them the ball. We want to highlight the fact that those teams are getting them the ball. We want to highlight the fact that they've scored 9 points. And we want to also highlight the 4 stars and 5-star athletes.
How many times in your DMs have you come across why aren't you covering my kid? Why haven't you highlighted, or you get the stats from the parents of why you should be highlighting said athlete?
That actually happens all the time. We do encourage parents or coaches or whatever to send us stuff in because, hey, we can't be everywhere as much as we want to be. We can't be everywhere, and we try to cover as much ground as we can with the guys that we have. But anytime somebody sends in stuff like that for us, we have to take the time to research it and make sure that we're posting legit stuff. But then we get it posted because, I mean, we can't be everywhere, and we want to get them as much recognition as we can.
And just to piggyback off Mark, is something that since we started this last year, we have built a clientele of, or not a clientele, but we have several coaches who will message us as soon as the game's over with their stats and their scores. And within the last year, we've seen that number grow. So we're getting more consistent from coaches sending us stuff, so we're not having to rely on parents as much. However, there are some parents that they go through the coach or will check with the coach, but it's became a lot easier within the last year of growing and getting to know these coaches and them helping us help them. So,
and I've seen the growth like from different areas of the state. Is there anywhere in the state that y'all don't have as much of a presence that you want to move into?
Right now, Northeast Arkansas, we've definitely got to get more presence. Like most of our content creators are in Central Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
We have some in Northwest, and we have one guy in South Arkansas right now.
We actually have have 2 in South Arkansas, but like North Central Arkansas, Northeast Arkansas, we're looking to add more people to help us. One thing that we haven't touched on is like of our content creators, they range anywhere from like 35 years old to 15. I think we have 3 15-year-old kids that are helping us. One of them that just joined us in which is a 9th grader. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the LEARNS Act, like where they've got to have the 75 community service hours. With him, he'll be able to capitalize on that. And like if he goes and covers a game for us, he'll be able to use, like if he covers a senior high and a senior high girls and senior high boys game, he'll be able to use 2 hours of community service hours for that.
That's awesome. I'm glad y'all said that because look, again, goes back to my kids, and I've got 2 in 8th grade going in 9th grade, and they're like, I've got to get 75 hours of community service. How am I going to do that? So if you don't mind, this is kind of off schedule. Let us know how we can help you promote that part of what y'all do. That way, if kids don't know about it, they can reach out. They can, definitely at the end of our segment, we can talk about that again, because I think that's a very I got a buddy of mine in South Carolina who's done that with colleges. He's gotten with schools in their journalism program, and they've gotten college credits because they've been able to intern for him. And now he went from a small, basically exactly like what y'all do. Now he's led the charge, and they have an HBCU weekend in Greenville, South Carolina, sports and culture in South Carolina. A good friend. I consider him a brother, Tyler Butler, but he's grinded for 5 years. He actually got me into this part of the world of doing sports content. But just seeing, that's what leads me to people like y'all and what y'all have done, seeing people grind, blowing up. I mean, I'm a champion for those type of content creators because I enjoy watching people go from 1,000 followers to 10,000 to 15,000 followers basically overnight.
Well, I'm not going to take anything away from our content creators. They are the very reason that we blew up. Most of them have came to help us because of Alex. Mario and I just try to be leaders and try to lead them and show them, be role models for them, talk to them and show them the business side of it, as well as hey, this is how we got to do this. And Alex has really played his part in helping bring on some of those other guys. And like I said, we just want to be role models, and like we want to help the high school athletes and things like that. But we want to help them long after they've become or finished playing their last game. Like Alex talked about, like the cameras or whatever, when they've decided that they don't want to be, or they're not going to play college sports or whatever, we want to help them with that. We have several things that we're putting together that we could help them where, if they want to stay in the sports media world or not, that we'll be able to help them. There's a lot of things coming down the pipe in 2024 from Next Up, and we're really excited about it.
So what are some of y'all's, I mean, we're talking about high school sports here, and Arkansas is very passionate about football, basketball. What are some of your top venues? What are some of the craziest environments that you've been able to cover, in your time doing sports this football season and basketball season?
Alex, I'll let you start out with that one.
Greenwood high school football, their student section was crazy. Their adult fan student section was crazy. Man, everybody at Greenwood was just they were eating football up, and they couldn't get enough of it. Now, they have Kane Archer, so it's easy to dive into that world, but man, it was a different atmosphere out there.
If Varsity Blues was a real live school, that would be it. Because between Greenwood and Boonville, just because of the area I live in, that's all they live and breed. And I know you go to their basketball arena in Greenwood, and they used to, back when I played, it was mini Bud Light. That's just, nobody'd seen an arena that big back in the 90s. Now everyone has them. So, yeah, it's been that crazy for a long time when it comes to Greenwood.
And then, for basketball, everybody's got these awesome gyms now. Sheridan has a great gym. Little Rock Christian has a great gym. There's plenty of schools that don't have a great gym, but man, it seems like the Arkansas high school, association has really done a good job of getting, high schools good gyms.
From the Northeast Arkansas standpoint on basketball, obviously venues, Manila High School comes to mind, Tuckerman High School, Brooklyn comes to mind, Brooklyn High School. There's several venues, and the fans and student sections are just, they're elite.
Well, what we'll do is we'll end it on this. Just talk about, you're talking about some of the pipeline stuff, what you got coming in the works, without details of giving anything away, but just what we can look forward to, future content. Again, how everybody that is tuning in, how they can find you. And again, appreciate y'all coming on and sharing your story and how y'all kind of rose up and been a big factor in high school sports. I know a lot of people talk about y'all when it comes to the coverage and the videos, but what can we expect in 2024 moving forward?
So we're actually looking to add a lot more stuff, like Alex talked about earlier when we were talking before the show about we're looking to add a podcast, maybe 2 different podcast shows. We're looking. We have an AAU basketball team, like a 6th grade girls basketball team. We're looking to add more there. We have a 11-year-old or 12-year-old softball team. We're looking to add more in that, maybe baseball and softball teams. We're going. One question that we asked on Instagram was, what would people like for Next Up to see Next Up do more? But aside from the content, we're looking to do some camps in several different sports around the state, just to try to help kids with skills and drills.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds awesome. If there's anything we can do, to collaborate to help y'all promote any of that stuff, feel free to reach out any way possible. Tag us and anything, because yes, we are an Arkansas podcast doing Razorback stuff, but I love promoting the state of Arkansas as well, because you never know, that 6th grader to 9th grader, they might end up being a Razorback themselves. So We really appreciate everything that y'all have done. And again, thank y'all for coming on and joining us tonight.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Y'all have a good one.
You too.
Thank you.
That was Next Up Sports. Really love what they do for the high school ranks. We're seeing it blow. I mean, just Adam, let's talk about when we was in school compared to now. I mean, we had a newspaper and we looked on Friday night lights, the helicopters coming to the stadiums. I mean, that's a big deal back when we played. Now you have all these entities coming up, and I think it's been really beneficial, especially how they highlight the smaller schools.
Oh yeah, I mean, back in circa early to mid 2000s, I mean, it was in Fort Smith at least, or this area, was waiting to see what was printed in Southwest Times, and then getting on the forums on Friday, whatever,
Fearless Friday,
Fearless Friday, to see what they wrote about you or one of your buddies or who's saying what. I mean, that was kind of a daily thing that you'd be in a classroom if it had a computer, that leading up to a big game, especially, that you're on there seeing what trash is being talked.
That is, yeah. You want to talk about the beginning of the message board. Fearless Friday was that kickoff of really, I mean, I remember Ozark Boonville week was like 20 pages long of message board material from the Friday of the game before till the Saturday after. It was just nothing but trash talk. And it was just, that was the way everybody talked trash. And Grant Tolley and Kevin Taylor there at Southwest Times, Rick Fires of the Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette, you would always look for their articles, and you see that kind of dwindling. Like, it's crazy to me to see the Southwest Times go from the big building it was in Fort Smith to a little office in the mall. I mean, that just tells you how much print media has kind of went away and it's all digital.
Yeah, like going back to our time versus what they were talking about, like with some of the gyms and the atmospheres and stuff. And that got me thinking about, I know Northside and Southside have recently opened up their new gyms these last couple of years. But I've been to several games, and it's different. It's not the same, where you're in a standing room only gym that has no air conditioning. And, I remember back in, whenever I was there, I was a sophomore, but Ronnie Brewer was a senior, and it was standing room only whenever Fayetteville came down to play Northside. And it was just a different type of intense. I mean, you had the crowd, you had the team, you had the cheerleaders, everybody's just on top of you.
The most intense environment I've ever been in was the year after I graduated. Ozark played Northside at Ozark. And this was when the girls were coming off of state championship. Northside was ranked third in the nation at the time. They had Red Coleman, Tamika Kirsch. I mean, just studs. I'm one of their best teams ever at Northside. And then you look on the men's side, and they had Matt Jones. And it was a crazy environment at Ozark, and it was the old gym. I mean, I can totally attest. I've been to many games in the new gym at Ozark, and it is not the same because the students aren't right there. Like, they put the student section underneath the goal, but off the court. That's why I like going to these small schools that have those student sections and the parents. I mean, the whole town shuts down, and you see that, and we've gotten away from it. That's why Boonville. You look at Boonville and Greenwood, why they're so successful, is they give their kids the playbook in 3rd, 4th grade. But yet, you go to a Little League game, and they bring just as many as a Little League game as a high school game. It's just the passion, and everybody wants to be a Bearcat or a Bulldog or a Grizzly or a Hillbilly. That's what I love about high school sports, which will lead us to our next segment when we come back from break. We're going to kind of stay on the high school subject tonight and talk about, this new School Choice Act, kind of what it's done. Now we're starting to see, kids doing announcements for going to other schools and transferring. And we've really, got a mixed bag of reactions from it. And we're going to take a quick commercial break. After the break, we'll dive into it. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and the supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need, whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck. Plus, our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance.
And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Meadows Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together. Are you in need of legal representation? Look no further than the law offices of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson. As the oldest law firm in the River Valley, we have been serving our clients for over 100 years, with locations in Ozark, Fort Smith, and Spring. Our experienced team of attorneys provide expert guidance and advocacy in a wide range of legal areas, including personal injury, family law, criminal defense, and more. Trust in our history and experience to get the results you deserve. Contact the law office of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson today at 479-782-8813. That's 479-782-8813. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South 1st Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Searching for premium brewing products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company.
And want to welcome you back to the Hawg Talk podcast. And, with Next Up Sports, we talk about the high school sports, but it's kind of hard not to. Sometimes we do get away from the Razorback aspect of the show. And, today, there was really a spark of a kid that had announced that he is, it was a kind of a commitment kind of post and switching schools per se. And there's been a couple of them, but, Adam, both of us being public school kids, and we've seen it happen on both sides of the public school side of it. We've seen it on the private school side, but that's been one of the hottest, longest tenured debates when it comes to Arkansas high school sports is the private school versus the public school deal. And now they've added a multiplier, and now they've went in to the competitive thing, where kids aren't just getting moved up because their enrollment, but now you're seeing public schools be able to have that school choice. And there was a video that went out about somebody saying that he wants to go look at all the middle school kids in this town, and now he's being accused of recruiting, when I don't know how you get accused of recruiting when you're looking in your same school district. But it's funny that the private side of it is the first to cast stones when they've had a 25-mile radius. They've been able to do this for years. And in some schools that are playing in lower classifications with a higher volume of people to be able to pick from, I just think it's kind of ironic how now that when the public school side is able to do it, now it's become a big problem.
Yeah, a lot of it's getting, I think, a little muddled. So, you've got the school choice that went into effect, I think, in March of this year, but it's just really now coming to light with the transfer announcements, I guess. But, back in, our time, before our time, even recent history, we knew that players, in some way, shape, or form, and we don't have to name names, coaches, schools, but we know that they were being recruited by other coaches, whether it be a nearby school or city, or if it was in a different area. Sometimes they got around that with a parent working at said school, whatever the case may be. So, now it's giving the kids the opportunity for their parents to choose where they want to go to school. Yes, we know that there's going to be athletic reasons for some of those choices that's not necessarily going to be educational. We know that's going to happen.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's fun,
yeah.
and that's what that is about, because it's just when you start to, my problem is this: don't cast stones when your school, your people has been doing. Look, when my senior year, 3 of the 5 starters were move-ins. 5 of the 8 in the rotation were move-ins. I mean, we had Mulberry and West Side, and kids coming in from other states. I mean, it happens. I mean, I can point out Clarksville, and they had kids come in from OARC and in Paris. I mean, we can say these things because statute of limitations 20 plus years, but there's a lot of schools that have done it.
Mm-hmm.
That's always been the debate. There's been talks of, is Benton do it? Is Greenwood doing it? And I understand, I do sympathize a little bit for the private school part of it, because they are kind of, being held of this multiplier where you have to play 5A. But yet then again, the ones that aren't competitive are playing at the same standards of like a Harding or a PA or a Shiloh. And I think when they did that and allowed now the competitive, where Episcopal and Subiaco can stay down lower instead of being shoved in higher classification because of the other schools, that's where now but it is getting more rampant because of social media, because of, we're seeing it in college now. It's all because it's new. But there was a kid that was Ozark. They went to County Line. They won a state championship at County Line. Now he's at Southside. It happens in the public school setting. It's just now that this school choice, it's making it kind of, it's making it legal for kids to not have to sit out. Used to, I think you'd have to sit out a year. Some kids were have to sit out a year. I don't know how long, if that's changed, but I just wanted to touch on it because I just thought it was funny, and there's people, going back and forth on it, and it to me, it's comical.
Yeah, and the competitive equity that came out, I don't fully. I guess my issues a little bit with it is the breaking up potentially of some of your like storied rivalries in the state.
Yes.
Looking at it, even from the not private school side of it, because, North Side, South Side has been a, prominent state rivalry in this state for my entire life. Maybe not until recent history with the teams, but for the most part, the Battle of Rogers Avenue was one of the top rivalries in the state. And then with Arkansas coming out with like the 7A, and then they split North Side and South Side into West and Central.
Yeah,
that right there started kind of ruffling my feathers with it a little bit. But then with this competitive equity, now you have South Side that dropped down to 6A for 2 years. And, I just look at it like that. Like, I'm not, I don't think that Arkansas should have had a 7A to begin with. I don't think they're big enough. So, and then now you're dropping, you already split up North Side and South Side, which they still played. They just played at the beginning of the year versus the very last game of the year. And now you're split.
Difference. That rivalry, you want that to be like the last game. And then you put that in Arkansas perspective, the LSU game. You always wanted that the Friday after Thanksgiving. Now it's the Missouri game. It'd be different if they moved to the Missouri game to week 3. You have those rivalries. You're at the end of the year. You anticipate this game all year long. I think that's the way rivalries should be played. At the end of the year, you have that anticipation. This team's coming in, like Arkansas, are they going to be bowl eligible after they win this game? And, Missouri's the same way. They last year beat Arkansas to become bowl eligible. So you have that, and it does. But also another thing what's weird to me is the conference you played in football was the same conference you played in basketball and baseball. But bring Ozark into this, we were playing playing up in North, Green Forest and Gentry and Gravette, teams like that in Huntsville. Well, in basketball and baseball, you're playing a hybrid of Farmington and Harrison and Morrilton, when Ozark is they're a bigger 4A school, but yet they're thrown into a 4A, 5A mix when it comes to basketball. So then it turns into, when you're talking about a state championship, it's a mixed bag. You know, you don't have that true kind of like a 4A champion like you do in football when you're having to go up against Harrison as a school like Ozark. And I'm just throwing that out there because that's where I'm from, but you see it all over the state. And then when they switch you, like you could go from playing Heber Springs to now you're playing Fountain Lake or you're playing Mena. I mean,
Mhm.
a more regional thing, we're kind of seeing what we see with this conference realignment in college. We're seeing it in the state of Arkansas where some schools are traveling 4 hours
Mhm.
for a conference game. And that's just insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, being still here in Fort Smith, and I have a coworker who his son plays for Northside on the basketball team, and seeing last year with them being in they were in the 7A Central, and I guess they are that whatever, but their road games, they're going to Jonesboro, they're going out to in the middle of the state on a weekly basis. They're traveling 3 and 4 hours for all their road games. And it was just, I mean, I couldn't believe it whenever I saw the schedules.
Yeah.
But it's a completely different landscape, I mean, even versus 5 years ago, it's a completely different landscape than 20 years ago when we were in school.
And that's the difference. And the thing is, and you've also seen now, it's kind of, they're playing the whole junior high through high school slate on one night because of the travel. Used to, it was Mondays and Thursdays was junior high night, Tuesdays and Fridays was high school night. Now it's all jumbled because you're having to play, you're having to do so much travel. I could just imagine if they did that and still having to travel the lengths they are. Now, I know they do it in football, but there's only 6 or 7 games let's say you split it in half, 4 or 5 games where you're on the road compared to you could be doing that in 1 week, 2 games in 1 week. And if you're at a holiday tournament or a basketball tournament, you're doing that back and forth, or you're having to get a hotel. It's getting to the point where there's just so many schools now trying to regulate where you're at in conference. It's just not the same when it comes to the sports. But no, I just wanted to touch on that because I just thought that, one, we've seen it for years. It's been happening on both sides for years. It is the hottest topic when you talk about high school sports other than rivalries. But, it's funny to see it happening and unfolding. And I have my side of it and everybody has their side of it, but it's been fun to watch and listen and even join in on.
Yeah. It's one of those that the question I think has been out there for a long time with a lot of the private schools, the smaller schools that have been so dominant at where they've been. How would they be at a higher level? And I think now that we're going to get to see that, some of those questions will be answered. But I wonder what the athletes, the high school athletes, think about this whole deal, because obviously on X, on Facebook, on everything, we're seeing from the parents or we're seeing from the alumni of said school. But what do these players think about the level of competition going up for some of them?
Yeah, and that's a fair point. And to me, it's like the school choice, man. No matter what, we've sat here and talked about our days in high school. Everybody talks about what they did in high school and who they played for. I mean, those are the days that you'll always remember. And being able to, man, I had the potential of going to this school with a couple of my buddies because a lot of these kids this is something we ain't even factored in. They play AAU ball together. They play travel ball together. Man, I would love to run it with those guys and win a state championship with these guys, or go from a smaller school and now you're going to a bigger school and you're elevated. Yes, if you're a D1 player at a 2A school, you should be averaging 28 points a game. You go up to a 7A school or a 6A school and you're still averaging 20 points a game. That's going to get you a D1 look, possibly a D1 offer. Even if you go D2, that's the thing. There's just so many schools. There's JUCO, NAIA, D3, D2, where you could, like we were talking about with the guys from Next Up, falling through the cracks. Now you could get a look and you could end up playing in a state championship game and something that you'd never forget the rest of your life.
Yeah, something that with the Next Up guys that they're doing that is great in my eyes is before you had to. But you and I were kind of in between that time of like you had to be up there and known in whatever high school you went to, in the conference, in the state, whatever. And then it kind of changed to you had to be on a travel team if you wanted to get recognized. And now what Next Up is doing, they're giving these players that aren't on travel teams, that aren't on AAU, it's getting them some limelight that they're not going to get because they don't participate in the travel ball for whatever reason.
And I love it. I mean, that was the thing. Like, following high school sports, we see a Clinton jersey or a Dardanelle jersey, and you're like, well, it's just seemed out of place because you're not used to seeing those teams getting highlighted. Not taking anything away from the team or saying they shouldn't, but it's just you're used to seeing the big schools and the big time D1 athletes and the big time players, and going on the women's side of it and the girls side of it, and they do volleyball. They do every sport. I know we just kind of talked about basketball and football, but they're there at the volleyball games. They're there at baseball games, basketball games. And, what that is doing now is more people are going to start doing – it's going to lead people, hey, look what they're doing. We want to do that too. And all it's going to do is lead to more exposure and get more kids out there to maybe if they decide to stay at their home school, maybe they have a chance to have some kids join them opposed to them going away and playing with them for a state championship.
Yeah. And something that they're doing that I like too with Next Up is, and I kind of looked at it like with the NILs in college sports, that there are players out there that maybe they're not going to be able to play at the next level. And I felt like with the NIL and what Next Up with what they're trying to do on showing these kids, kind of the photography, the business, the this and that, it's going to open some doors and open some eyes to, I could still be in sports, but I might just not be playing them. And I think that's something that especially college athletes, they get into this, okay, what's next? Is it NBA? Is it overseas? And that's not in the cards for all of them. So it's what's your next plan? And, I think stuff like this has really got a lot of room to grow for them.
Well, and also when we talk about the NIL stuff, there's 30 states that allow NIL for high school athletes. And of course, the first thing you think of outside looking in is, gosh, now we're dealing with high school kids getting money. But think about the digital creators. Look at Overtime. Look at all these big, huge media outlets that are making thousands and thousands and sometimes millions of dollars off putting out content of these high school kids. And I'm not saying they're taking advantage of them, but it's almost like the high school kids want that attention. They want to see their videos on Instagram or a video go viral. They're getting nothing in return of that. They're not getting any of the monetization from it. The big time, and I say Overtime because they've been one of the biggest ones that I've followed and seen that you see on there, but you see who they've produced and you've seen some of these high school kids. Mac McClung, one of the kids that was a viral sensation, he ended up getting a spot and winning the NBA Slam Dunk competition playing in the G League.
Yep.
Because from high school up, he was seen as this highlight reel. You're seeing a lot of that. And he's just one of the few that's been able to cash in on it. Now, when you get to the college ranks and, you're able to get big deals and money, it's just, I think when we look at it, I think the kids needs to, if they're getting these big time looks and these big time media companies covering them and they're making a lot of money off of them, I think they should get a chip of it because you're making money off of them and they're not getting nothing in return other than, hey, well, you're on our page.
Yeah. And a lot of that too, I mean, we've talked about with college and NIL and payers, like, in high school, it's completely different. And, being both of us, former high school players, athletes, whatever, I tried having a job on top of playing basketball. And it was just one of those things that it didn't always work out. Coaches not wanting to let you go because you've got to go to work and work not wanting to deal with, you having practice or a weekend tournament or something like that. So, this potentially gives kids other options besides going to get an after school job with this content creation of theirs.
And they're able, you like you said, the guys joining the team. I mean, maybe if it is like an internship where you're getting credit, but during the summer you can make money off it. There's just a lot of, there's a lot of opportunities when it comes to it. And I think they're hitting it right at the right time of they're like we've done and tried to do, what's going to separate you from the others that are talking about Razorback sports. How do you come at a different angle? What do you talk about that not everybody else is talking about? Same way with what they're doing. They're covering sports and they're wanting to kind of mentor the kids on a video level and not just a digital, like
Mhm.
writing content. They're doing video content as well. And I think that's going to lead to big success for them,
Mhm.
but also it's fun to watch as well.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's what we'll wrap it up on that. Just kind of, just thoughts on, of course, next up. Man, really appreciate them coming on. Wanted to really get them on the show tonight. And of course, with the news today, kind of wanted to highlight that. And we always try to, if there's a really big topic or some breaking news, come on and talk about it. And that's another thing we're going to try to do in 2024, especially with basketball season. If something happens or big time transfer or big time news comes on, we might throw in an extra show and go live, which we will announce. And so looking forward to that. But Adam, you got anything else?
We just got tomorrow at 6. What was that channel? SEC Network Plus. We got the women's team. We had Coach Neighbors on last night at Kentucky for their SEC opener. So that'll be a big watch.
Yeah. And we'll be back on normal schedule starting next week on our Sunday show. And then we go on from there. We're trying to line up Coach Weaver to preview the gymnastics season coming up for our women's show. But for Adam Hall, I'm Porter Hayes. We're also brought to you by Bet Online and Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. We will catch you on Sunday.